100 Children, 100 Stones by Candy Floss Consumer. Chapter 5 8 Hours and 3 Days. The fires burn well into the evening. Kakashi leaves at 1800 hours in order to check on the boys, but Sakura cannot leave yet. She has to stay until the bodies are ash and only the stones are left. A burning rite is never finished until the names are thrown back into the ocean, to one day be brought back to shore and gifted to a new life. At least, that is what Sakura's mother had taught her many, many years ago. So Sakura stays. She sits on the ground with the burning fields laid out before her and waits. She waits for the flames to become ash and cinders, for the named stones to lie alone where bodies once laid. No one can help her with the final part of the rites. Sakura must gather each stone herself, speak the blessing, and throw them into the sea. Thus, once the burning has faded to wisps, Sakura is left alone at the burial grounds. First, the people of Wave leave, bowing in respect before turning away and returning to the town. Amiya and the Ashioto are next. They return to their positions before the burning rites began and plunge their staves into the earth. The fires atop them have mellowed into a gentle lavender, and little to no smoke comes from them. Then the Ashioto collectively step back, placing their right hands as fists over their hearts. They bend their torso slightly. Sakura swallows harshly. It is a salute of kin, a promise of remembrance. When someone dies, they are gone, but they never truly leave. As Sakura blinks, the Ashioto disappear. Though she knows they will return for the second day of burning, it is a little difficult to know she will truly be doing this alone, because she was a different person just a few days ago, and she isn't sure if she is strong enough yet. But she has to be. If she doesn't change, she will be stuck as that useless version of herself. She will remain that crying forehead girl, obsessor extraordinaire, an expert paper ninja with no other skills to back herself up. Sakura heaves herself upwards, stumbling a little before steadying. Somehow, she needed her self-imposed mission just as much as the people of Wave did. And truthfully, Sakura wonders who Haruno Sakura will be by the end of this mission. She wonders what changes will stick, how this will affect her life back in Konoha. Knowing she will never get her answers as she is, Sakura shakes the thoughts away. She still needs to finish the rites. Sakura retrieves her trusty bucket from the first day. Then she works for hours, and by the time she is almost finished gathering the stones and shifting the ashes, it is well after 2300 hours. She hovers over the last 5 stones. The stars and moon shine bright above her, casting everything in a silvery light. It is in that time that she catches sight of one of the charm bracelets. The piece of jewelry had somehow miraculously survived the fire, completely intact. Sakura picks it up along with the 5 stones. She slides it onto her wrist as the names of the lost pass through her mind. First is Hisashi, meaning long-lived. Second is Kazuhiro, meaning prosperous one. Third, Tsunami, meaning 1,000 waves. Fourth, Eiko, meaning long-lived child. And finally, Mamiko, meaning daughter of the sea. Sakura coughs wetly, wiping at her eyes with her upper arm. Amiya had carved these. An odd quirk with her precision-cut jutsu was that it seemed to mimic the user's handwriting. Sakura blinked, tears slipping, and it wasn't hard to connect the dots. There had been hope in Wave once. alive with the children that had once held the names in her hands. Sakura places the stones into the bucket with great care, mentally keeping a close eye on the little chakra she had reinforced her arms with. The stones may have been small, but 100 of them in one bucket was no light thing. And that's how many there were. 100. Kids lost to the whims of human nature. Sakura studiously avoids the thought of how many stones will be added to the sea tomorrow. She hoists the bucket and tightens her grip on it. Sakura treads carefully as she walks to the beach. She sets the bucket of stones down temporarily as she removes her hakama pants and turtleneck. Sakura is left in nothing but her undergarments, but she cannot wear clothes. The ocean will ruin them for their shame. Sakura is not embarrassed either. If the people of Wave truly have as much of the islands in them as they have shown, then they won't leave the town until they see her again. She steps into the gently lapping waves, goosebumps sprouting across both of her arms and legs. A shiver travels up her spine, causing Sakura to shake slightly. The water is cold, bubbling against her skin in a ticklish manner as she wades deeper into the waves. She stops once the water reaches the tops of her knees. She shivers again. Then she simply breathes for a few moments. The moon breaks through the cloud cover, shining its light directly onto Sakura. She sings, "Given and received, we now hope and return." The first verse is loud in the quiet, and Sakura stutters a bit. Her memories of these lessons are hazy at best, and she hopes the ocean will forgive her if she fumbles. "These names we have cherished, again we will earn." As Sakura's voice fills the night, she sees the waves begin to intensify. The ocean currents tug underneath the surface. To take back the named stones, she will twist and pull. "Do not worry, my blossom. She will not take you too." Sakura's echo plays the memory at the back of her mind. Sakura herself inhales a shaky breath. "As the ocean flows, the sea rises, and the currents come to churn." The wind picks up, and in the far-off distance, Sakura can see whirlpools forming. They are violent, yet somehow gentle. Ocean rain begins to fall from the heavens, thunder roaring across the skies. Sakura cannot decide if it is simply coincidence, or if she is really honoring some divine being along with the dead. There is no time to ponder. She continues to the end of the blessing. "Given and received, we now thank and return." Sakura finishes the last verse with a mighty heave, tilting the bucket enough to release the names. She watches as the 100 stones sink beneath the waves, imperfect and uneven kanji chipped into them by an unpracticed hand. The owners have only recently been buried as ash and dust beneath waves' coarse ground, and there Sakura stands, soaked by sea spray and illuminated by the night sky, the one behind it all. Sakura returns to the beach. There she stands as the rain lasts just long enough to rinse the salt water away. Her clothes are slightly damp, but Sakura still shrugs them on. They're the only coverings she has at the moment, other than the papou charm she'd taken from Tsunami's ashes. She couldn't, at least, not in good conscience, leave the bracelet behind to be eaten by some scavenging animal. It didn't feel right, and for some reason, it felt like she was supposed to have it. like the bracelet was Chanami's thanks for sending the little girl and her friends to peace. A tiny smile makes its way onto Sakura's face. She wishes she had gotten to meet the child. Her experience as she treks back through town towards Tazuna's house is an odd one. Originally, before she had completed the rites, the townspeople would only look at her with wariness and suspicion. But now there was a sort of respect in their eyes. They part as she walks by, as if they can actually see the islander within Sakura beneath her light peach skin. She shakes her head slightly, continuing her journey. As Sakura approaches the house, she sees the area around the front porch lit up with lanterns. Kakashi is reclined in a rocking chair on the left side of the porch, while the boys are sitting listlessly on the steps. She doesn't get to think about her observations for long, though, because once she gets closer, Naruto shoots up from his seat and throws himself at her. Oddly enough, Sasuke also looks as if he wants to go to her, almost as if he was worried about her. "Sakura-chan!" Naruto shouts, basically into her ear, and she almost lets him fall to the ground. "Where were you? Sasuke Temi and I finished training earlier, and suddenly the place where you trained was completely on fire! Hey, Sakura-chan, are you listening?" Sakura cuts off her overexcitable teammate by placing a hand over his mouth. Extricating herself from his embrace, she leads him by the hand back over to Sasuke. She sits down on the porch step next to the apathetic boy, and gestures for Naruto to sit on her other side. He does so easily, and is strangely quiet as he waits for Sakura to speak. Sakura distantly realizes that she hasn't seen this side of Naruto since their early academy days, before they both changed. His change caused by something she didn't know, and her own caused by something she wishes she didn't remember. But that was all irrelevant, at least in this moment. "Those weren't dangerous fires, Naruto," Sakura asserts, because that has to be made clear before anything else. "They were funeral pyres." Sasuke stiffens beside her, but Sakura doesn't turn to look at him. She keeps her eyes facing forward, staring sightlessly into the dark woods in front of her. "Funeral pyres?" Naruto's repetition in form of a question breaks the short silence. Sakura glances at each of the boys before nodding, slouching into the porch steps behind her. "Yes, funeral pyres." Sakura takes a deep breath, forcing herself to sit up. She leans over her knees, propping her elbows up and supporting her head. In countries like Wave, island countries, I mean, funerals are different than in Konoha. Sakura peeks at Sasuke through her peripherals, and it seems the genin has already figured out what she's going to say. Naruto perks up from his seat next to her. "Like your grandparents?" Naruto asks, and Sakura is surprised he remembers that. She hasn't spoken of them since their second year of the academy. She supposes that it goes to show that Naruto has been paying attention to her for a long time. A very long time. For far longer than she deserves, really. Especially with how she treated him. Sakura nods again. "Yeah, like my grandparents," Sakura confirms. "Those funerals are different, as I said, and are often known as the blessings of the islands, or as many observers have called them, the blessings of contradiction." It feels strange to be saying the names out loud. After all, Sakura never expected the people of Wave to accept the rites and had started on her own. She thought that the names were to be kept private in her memories, never spoken aloud again. "The rites of fire and water." Sasuke's voice speaks up from her right. "Today was the day of burning, wasn't it?" Sakura jerked her chin up and down at the assumption. "The first. There will be 2 this time," Sakura says, a slight correction. A few minutes passed, the sounds of crashing waves and ocean wind filling the quiet. Finally, Naruto asks the question she was waiting for. "Why were the funeral pyres lit where you were training, Sakura-chan?" His voice is a bit subdued, as if he hadn't wanted to ask the question. He probably didn't. If Sakura's assumption is correct, he had most likely wanted her to explain, rather than having to ask the damning question himself. Sakura promises she will make it up to him later. As it is, Sakura stands up. She walks forwards a bit before turning. She determinedly makes eye contact with both of the boys as she replies. "Because I'm the one who started the funeral rites.